With a total of 2 episodes left to talk about, we are now moving into the endgame of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. So let's talk about episode number 23, titled Unrelenting Tenderness. Before I get into my thoughts though, I want to hear from you guys, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know what you thought of the penultimate episode of this series, and while you're there, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content and want to see plenty more Gundam videos in the future. Suletta engages in battle with Eri, vowing to stop their plans with Quiet Zero. With Ariel and the gun nodes distracted, a group aboard the Demibardin fly into Quiet Zero with their permit link disengaged. On the outside, Guel is forced to fight Lauda, who is intent on getting to Miorin because of her bringing Gundams back into their lives. The League plan to use a powerful superweapon to destroy Quiet Zero, wiping out the Benry Group's base in the process. Aboard Quiet Zero, Miorin, Choo-Choo, Alan and others are met by Harrow sentries, though luckily manage to get past them to hack into and shut down the data storm. Prospero attempts to thwart them, but her helmet is shot off by Alan, and Miorin bypasses the security, getting to the original programming created by her own mother. Guel and Lauda's duel almost finishes with Guel being killed in the same way his father was, but Felsi comes in at the last minute to prevent the dilanza from exploding. The episode ends with the League firing their superweapon, and Eri using Ariel and the gun nodes to form a barrier and protect everyone from its blast, sacrificing herself in the process. So this is the penultimate, second to last episode of the entire series, and thus it kind of serves as the final battle, because then the finale is going to be used to not only wrap up the final battle, but just wrap up all the characters' arcs and storylines. So this is where you get the big action going down. You get the duels between characters, you get our characters going in to try and stop this super weapon being Quiet Zero. When we've had so much phenomenal action in this series, this is the one that had to be the best yet. And whilst I don't think in terms of the action it is the best across the entire series, it is still damn good, intense and very entertaining. First off, let's talk about the central battle, the duel between sisters being Suletta versus Eri. That was great. The animation was fantastic, especially when you have the CALIBARN flying around. It's being chased by all these gun nodes and it just looks awesome. There's so much visual noise going on, but in a way that works. And from what I read somewhere, I think this episode has the biggest staff list of the entire series so far, and you can tell there's a lot of fantastic animation like across the board in this episode, and because there's so much going on in terms of duels, in terms of space battles, you kind of need that. I do wish that we kind of got a bit more of an extended battle between CALIBARN and Ariel, because it's intercut with so many other things happening in this episode, which I guess could be seen as a problem. It almost does feel like the runtime is spread a bit too thin in dedicating time to certain aspects, and because of that, I do think that the Ariel and CALIBARN fight, where it's supposed to be the main focus, the thing that everyone's there to watch, it does feel like it gets the lower end of the stick. Which takes on to our other duel, which I think is definitely given a lot more, not only time, but also focus. And that is Guel in his dilanza versus Lauda in the schwarzette. And the schwarzette is awesome. I actually saw like an official art of it, and it definitely looks like it's taken a lot of inspiration from Sephiroth, the main villain of Final Fantasy VII. The gun bits that this thing has almost form one wing, hence one-winged angel Sephiroth, and then he also has a sword katana type thing, so very Sephiroth inspired, and I just loved it in action. It's kind of sad that we're seeing it in like the second to last episode, because presumably, you know, if we never get a sequel series to this, we're only going to see it in a total of 2 episodes, and it does feel a little bit wasted in terms of its design and also its features. But nonetheless, when that high-grade Gunpla version comes out, you know I'm going to be picking it up so I can treasure it forever. This duel itself definitely holds a lot of emotion when it comes to Guel and Lauda's relationship, and we do get a flashback to the first time that they met, and Guel just completely embraced Lauda as like an adoptive brother. What happens right before this scene though is you'd think that Guel's about to die, because Lauda and Guel come at each other in the same way that Guel and his father came at each other. This time though, Guel deactivates his sword and Lauda stabs straight through him. Luckily, it doesn't hit him, but you still think he's going to die because you think that the dilanza is going to blow up. But then Felsi, who has now become my favourite character in the series simply because she managed to save Guel's life, comes in and, well, saves Guel's life by shooting some sort of glue out. It does feel like a bit of an ass pull in terms of something we've never seen before brought in to protect someone. I don't know, like it's a minor thing really. There's still a part of me though, as much as I would have hated to see it and I would have been torn apart by it, I kind of wanted Guel to die. Maybe it's just because I feel like someone really major in terms of a main character has to die in this series and it didn't happen in this episode, but I did for a minute think that Guel would actually die. and then they kind of reverse it, which in some ways it's a shame. At the same time, Guel's my favourite character in this series, so I am rooting for him. And it does seem like now he's going to make it out. Another thing going on in this episode is the Space Assembly League's plans to destroy Quiet Zero and the Benera group in the process and frame it as an accident, frame it as collateral damage. Out of everything in this series, the Space Assembly League feels like it's got the least focus. I feel like there's so much there that could be explored, could be explained about their role in everything. And it has been explained in the series a bit, but you just don't feel like there's been a whole lot of focus on it. And especially when you tie that in with Pale Technologies, the real Elan, who is also involved in this. And I gotta say, that is a character that I feel like there was something there and they just didn't capitalize on it. You feel like eventually the real Elan will come into the picture and he just never does. And I struggle to believe they're going to bring him in properly for the finale. Who knows, maybe they will. Maybe they'll set up a sequel series, maybe they'll set up a spin-off where he's a major focus in it. I don't really know. It's so difficult to say, but in terms of what I'm looking at right now, the real Elan just feels like a complete waste. Speaking of an Elan that hasn't been a complete waste though, Elan 5 involved in this whole thing going aboard the Quiet Zero. I just wanted to use Elan as a pivot to talk about this other part of the episode, and it's a major part, and it's essentially the rebels going into the Death Star. I'm just going to make a Star Wars reference here. I'm going to tie it to Star Wars. And that's what you have here, where you have a group of our heroes sneaking aboard Quiet Zero to shut it down from the inside. And it involves Miorin, Choo-Choo, Elan, Nika, basically everyone from Earth House, alongside Belmeria, Kananji. So there's quite a few characters involved in this. But first off, Harrow Sentries, really cool idea. And I gotta say that Elan has an excellent moment in this episode where he just has a gun for some reason. No one has any idea where he's got it from. Kananji's refusing to give guns to all these students, but then Elan 5 somehow has one. Not complaining, because actually he kind of saves them. That's right, he shoots Prosper's helmet off. With that said, I do think that this could have been a far more effective and almost quite dramatic scene if Prosper hadn't taken the helmet off throughout the series. We always knew that it was Elnora, who of course was the character in the prologue, but I feel like not seeing her face throughout the whole series and then for her helmet to be shot off and we finally get a proper face reveal in like the second to last episode, I feel like that would have been a very effective scene in terms of the drama. And it just feels odd for them of not to have done it. We know they had 24 episodes planned from the start, so they obviously had like a pretty good idea of exactly how the series was going to play out. It just feels like one of those moments that's supposed to come off as dramatic, but doesn't because we've already seen a face. But overall, I did really enjoy this episode. The visuals, the animation are amazing, the action very intense and feels very personal in some places as well. Though after seeing this episode, it does make me worried that they're not going to be able to wrap things up in the, best way they possibly could, because it does feel like some things are being rushed, some things are just being pulled out of nowhere for the sake of plot convenience. Sometimes series end up going through these problems when it gets to the end, and unfortunately Witch from Mercury might end up being a victim of that. We do of course have one episode left though, so they could completely turn it around, everything could wrap up in the most satisfying way we could ever have imagined, and my criticism that I just stated right there could become completely irrelevant. But those are my thoughts on episode 23 of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. Before I get out of here, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content and want to see plenty more Gundam videos in the future. Also, let me know down in the comment section below what you thought of this episode, if you've seen it, what was your favourite moment within it, and which was your favourite duel out of Ariel versus CALIBARN or the Dilanza versus Schwarzette. As always, thank you so much for tuning into mchat today, and I'll see you all in the next video.